Hi, I'm Hayden, and I'm here with a former professional Australian and Commonwealth flyweight boxing champion turned social worker, Henry Nissen. Hey, thanks for coming in.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you were originally born in Germany. When and why did you move to Australia?
Well, I had nothing to do with it. My parents emigrated through a displaced persons camp in Germany because my father's uncle got us permission to come to Australia. So as a result of that, here we are.
Wow. So what was your childhood like growing up in Australia?
Well, it was fairly traumatic because my mother, because of the problems she'd had during the war, being hiding and from the German army and stuff, she was traumatised by it, and as a result my father, who was a wonderful person, managed to cope with that and work day and night when they came to Australia and look after their family. I was one of 5 children, and it was a traumatic upbringing because of my mum's ill health, and I guess because my father was the only one working in the family, which meant times were tough.
Yeah.
And
so what started you boxing then?
Well, I'd been bashed up a couple of times as a kid, and I thought, and I'd found out that there was an ex-boxing champion living up the road from me called Peter Reid. So I asked him would he teach me some self-defence, and he started teaching me, and then my identical twin brother wondered where I was disappearing to all the time, and he followed me. So in all things, we both were competing against each other because we were both the same size.
Yeah.
So it was a good lesson for us both, and as a result, we both become Australian champions.
Is it true that you and your twin used to swap fights?
I'm not going to admit to anything like that, but I will say they did get the names mixed up a few times, and we didn't tell them.
So can you sort of describe your path to becoming a champion boxer?
Yeah, it was bloody hard work, and thankfully we had the mental capacity to learn the moves, and then it was just practice and more practice, and as a result we built up our stamina and both became champions.
Henry Nissen out punching Brian Roberts.
What's been your most memorable moment in a fight?
Well, there was this one photo that shows me standing upright and my opponent flying backwards through the air, and I stopped him in 8 rounds. That was for the Commonwealth professional title, and that's the most spectacular thing that I can remember.
Right.
But it was all good fun, especially when you won.
Yeah. So how did you go from boxing into social work?
Well, after bashing people up for the first 12 years in those days, I felt a bit guilty when I retired, and I thought, what am I going to do now? So I thought, well, I've been bashing them up, so now I'll help them. And thankfully I met up with Father Bob Maguire, and in meeting with him, we started doing street work, where we'd hang around the streets, get to meet the young people on the streets, and as a result of that, once you get to know them and find out where they're at, we needed to help them with accommodation, others we needed to help with talking up from in court, because people who were homeless got into trouble a lot because they had to survive. And as a result of that, we tried to work out how we can help them. But first of all, we had to make the contact. Then we we trained or found out the places that could help them. And then over the years, they come good. And life lived happily ever after.
How does it feel to have a book written about you?
Oh, of course, my head swelled 3 times the size, and that I'm very happy with the book. I met the author, and we grew up together, and he asked me would I be happy if he wrote a book on me, and of course I said yes, and he's written a wonderful book. I read it in 2 days and thought it was wonderful, and now it's selling in all the bookshops.
So what's next for you now?
It's a good question. Well, I'm retired and I'm still helping Father Bob. I can't get over the fact that I've retired from working and getting paid to working for nothing to help people. See, brain damage from my boxing days.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming in. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
My pleasure to speak to you too.
And you can buy The Fighter in all good bookstores.